If a man your age came after your own daughter at 18, how would you feel? What will people say? Our only daughter, dating a man with a grown 18-year-old child? A man who impregnated someone at a young age. Regina's father asked Mr. Joshua. Regina had always been fascinated by stories of love and deep connections, but never in her wildest dreams did she imagine she would find herself in such a situation. At 17, she was beautiful, intelligent, and full of life, attending one of the most prestigious schools in the city. Despite being an only child from a wealthy home, she often felt lonely. Her parents were constantly occupied with business meetings and social gatherings, leaving her with nannies and housemaids. Over time, she found comfort in her best friend, Rain, and her grandmother, who treated her like family. Rain and Regina had been inseparable since primary school. They laughed together, shared secrets, and navigated the ups and downs of teenage life. The only thing Regina had never experienced was the presence of a warm, loving father. She had always been curious about Rain's dad, Mr. Joshua. Rain spoke about him fondly, painting a picture of a man who, despite living abroad, was deeply involved in her life. He sent gifts, called frequently, and made her feel special. Regina secretly envied their bond. She wished for a father who would care for her that way, someone who would listen, laugh, and simply be there. The final week of SS2 was a blur of excitement, anxiety, and last-minute revisions. Students rushed to submit assignments, teachers piled on extra lessons, and the air was thick with the anticipation of the long holiday ahead. Regina and Rain, like most of their classmates, were counting down the days. Regina had always loved the last week of the term. It was the only time the teachers weren't so strict, and the students could breathe a little. Most of the time was spent writing exams, signing each other's notebooks, exchanging farewell messages, and planning how they'd spend their holidays. Regina sat with Rain under the mango tree in the school compound, fanning herself with an exercise book as they chatted about their holiday plans. "I can't believe we're finally going to SS3, Rain sighed, stretching her legs out. Regina smiled. "I know, right? One more year, and we're done with secondary school." Rain leaned in closer, her eyes twinkling. "Guess what? My dad is coming back to Nigeria." Regina turned to her sharply. "Wait, your dad? For real?" "Yes, for real, real. He already sent money to Grandma to get the house ready, and he said we're going to spend a lot of time together." Regina felt a strange tug in her chest. She had always admired how Rain's father stayed in touch despite being miles away. He wasn't like the other absent fathers she had heard about, he was present, even from a distance. He sent gifts, called often, and even helped Rain with her schoolwork over video calls. Regina had never met him, but from everything Rain said, he seemed like the kind of father she had always wanted. Unlike Rain, Regina's home never really felt like home. Her parents were wealthy, but their money never translated to warmth. They were always away, business trips, social gatherings, endless meetings. The house was big, beautiful, and lifeless. Most times, she only saw her parents at breakfast before they hurried off, leaving her with the maids. She wasn't starving, she wasn't struggling, but she felt empty. Rain's grandmother had filled that space for her. The old woman always welcomed her with open arms, cooked her favorite meals, and treated her like another granddaughter. Rain's home had become her safe place, a contrast to her own house, where everything was polished and perfect but cold and distant. "So, when will he be around?" Regina asked, trying to sound casual. "He said he'll be here before school resumes." "I can't wait. He's taking me to all the fun places. And guess what? I told him about you." Regina's eyes widened. "You did?" "Yes. I told him you're my best friend and like a sister to me. He even said he'll get you something." Regina felt her heart warm at that. A father buying her a gift? It was a small thing, but it meant a lot. Her own parents had never taken the time to ask about her friends, let alone buy gifts for them. The thought of finally meeting Rain's father made her excited. She had always wanted to put a face to the name. Maybe, just maybe, she could feel a little of the love that Rain always spoke about. Little did she know that one meeting would change her life forever. The long holiday passed quickly, and before Regina knew it, SS3 had begun. Everything felt different. There was a new sense of responsibility in the air. Teachers were stricter, students were more serious, and the reality of their final year loomed over them. Regina and Rain, however, still found moments to enjoy themselves. Throughout the holiday, Rain had gone on and on about her father, how he took her to fancy restaurants, bought her expensive gifts, and treated her like a princess. Every time Regina listened, a pang of longing struck her heart. She wanted to experience that kind of love, even if just for a moment. "I told you, my dad is the best," Rain said one afternoon as they sat in class, waiting for the next lesson to start. "And you're finally going to meet him this Friday after school." She was eager to meet the man who had made such an impact on Rain's life, unaware that this meeting would change her life forever. Friday couldn't come fast enough. Regina spent the entire week in high spirits, eagerly anticipating her visit to Rain's house. She imagined what Mr. Joshua would be like, tall, well-spoken, and warm, just like Rain had described. The week crawled by, and by the time Friday arrived, she was both eager and nervous. She had taken extra care with her appearance that morning, wearing her neatly ironed uniform, applying a light touch of lip gloss, and styling her hair into a simple but elegant ponytail. She told herself it was just to look presentable, but deep down, she knew she wanted to make a good impression. After school, the girls took a cab to Rain's house. Regina had been there countless times before, but this time, she felt different stepping in. The house smelled of fresh air freshener, and a cool breeze from the air conditioner brushed against her skin as they entered. And then, she saw him. Mr. Joshua was sitting in the living room, dressed casually in a fitted white shirt and dark jeans, flipping through a business magazine. When he looked up and their eyes met, Regina's breath caught in her throat. He was strikingly handsome, nothing like the image she had built in her mind of an older, strict father. His skin was smooth, his beard neatly trimmed, and his deep brown eyes held something familiar, something that made her chest tighten. "Daddy!" Rain squealed, running to hug him. He smiled and embraced his daughter before turning his gaze back to Regina. "You must be Regina," he said, his voice deep and soothing. Regina swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. No need for sir. Call me Mr. Joshua," he said, stretching out a hand. She hesitated for a second before taking it. His grip was firm yet gentle, and for a fleeting moment, something passed between them. Something silent, unspoken, but undeniable. Rain, who was unaware of the tension, pulled Regina down onto the couch beside her and began chatting excitedly about school. Regina tried to focus, but her heart was racing. She could feel Mr. Joshua's gaze on her every now and then, and each time their eyes met, she quickly looked away. Something was wrong. Or maybe, something was just beginning. As the evening went on, Regina found herself drawn to Mr. Joshua in a way that both confused and terrified her. He was everything she never knew she wanted in a man, confident, attentive, and warm. The way he laughed, the way he listened to Rain with genuine interest, the way his deep voice filled the room, it was intoxicating. At first, she told herself it was admiration. After all, she had never seen a father this involved, this present. But as the minutes turned into hours, she could no longer deny what was happening. She was attracted to him. And worse, she had a sinking feeling that he felt something too. It was in the way he looked at her, subtle, lingering glances that lasted just a second too long. It was in the way his voice softened when he spoke to her, in the slight hesitation before he responded to her questions. It was dangerous. It was wrong. But it was real. Regina felt a flush creep up her neck. She couldn't believe herself. This was her best friend's father. A man far older than her. A man who had a daughter her age. And yet, no matter how much she tried to push the feeling away, it refused to leave. She excused herself to the bathroom, gripping the sink as she stared at her reflection. "Get a hold of yourself, Regina," she whispered. "This is ridiculous." But when she walked back into the living room and found Mr. Joshua looking at her with that same unreadable expression, she knew she was already in trouble. Regina tried her best to act normal for the rest of the evening, laughing at Rain's jokes, responding to Mr. Joshua's questions politely, and keeping her gaze away from his as much as possible. But every time she stole a glance, she found him watching her, his expression unreadable. As the sun set, Regina knew it was time to leave. "Thank you for having me, Mr. Joshua," she said as she and Rain made their way to the door. "The pleasure was mine, Regina." "I hope this won't be your last visit," he replied with a small smile. His words sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She forced a polite smile and nodded before stepping outside. The ride home was silent, but her mind was anything but peaceful. She replayed the evening over and over, trying to convince herself that she was overthinking things. Maybe she was just imagining it. Maybe she had mistaken kindness for something else. But deep down, she knew she wasn't imagining anything. Something had passed between them. And no matter how wrong it was, she couldn't shake the feeling. That night, Regina tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. She had never felt this way before, never experienced this kind of deep, consuming attraction. It wasn't like the silly crushes she and her classmates had on young teachers or celebrities. This was different. This was real. Her phone vibrated on her nightstand, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Rain. Rain, I think my dad likes you. The way he kept looking at you today. I've never seen him act that way before. Anyway, I'm glad you finally met him. He's really cool, right? That was an understatement. He was everything she never knew she wanted. Regina's heart skipped a beat. Regina sighed, putting her phone down. She needed to get a grip. This was a dangerous path, and she had no business walking it. But it was already too late. She had taken the first step without even realizing it. That night, Regina told herself she wouldn't think about Mr. Joshua anymore. But the following week at school, Rain wouldn't stop talking about him. Dad said he likes you, Rain said casually as they walked to class. Regina nearly choked. What? He said you're a very smart and well-mannered girl. He even asked if you will be coming over again this weekend, Rain continued. Regina forced a laugh. That's nice of him. But inside, her heart was racing. All day, she found herself replaying Rain's words. Was he really just being polite? Or did he mean something more? By the time Friday arrived, Regina knew she couldn't resist the temptation. When Rain invited her over again, she agreed without hesitation. She told herself it was just another visit. But deep down, she knew she was walking straight into danger. Regina wasn't sure if she imagined it, but the moment she stepped into Rain's house again, Mr. Joshua's expression changed. It was subtle, a flicker of something in his eyes, the briefest pause before he greeted her. Regina, welcome back, he said, his voice steady, but his gaze lingering a little too long. Thank you, sir, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Rain dragged her to the kitchen, excited to show her the new snacks her dad had bought. But Regina couldn't focus. Her mind was too distracted by the way Mr. Joshua looked at her. And when he caught her alone in the hallway later that evening, she knew she hadn't imagined it. You've been on my mind, he admitted, his voice low. Regina's breath hitched. Mr. Joshua, I know, he cut her off gently. This shouldn't be happening. But the way he looked at her, the intensity in his eyes, told her that it already was. And neither of them knew how to stop it. Regina knew she should have stayed away after that night. But something kept pulling her back. She started visiting more often, always under the excuse of hanging out with Rain. Each time, she and Mr. Joshua exchanged stolen glances, quiet conversations, and unspoken words that filled the air with tension. She was playing with fire, and she knew it. Regina tried to convince herself that nothing was happening. But each visit to Rain's house brought her closer to Mr. Joshua in ways she couldn't explain. They weren't doing anything wrong, but the air between them was thick with tension. One Friday evening, after a long day at school, Regina and Rain were watching a movie in the living room. Mr. Joshua was working on his laptop across the room, but Regina could feel his presence like a shadow hovering over her. Every now and then, she caught his gaze when Rain wasn't looking. As the night deepened, Rain dozed off on the couch. Regina sat still, her heart hammering. Mr. Joshua cleared his throat. I'll take her to her room, he said, lifting his sleeping daughter in his arms. Regina nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the moment. She should leave. She should stand up and walk out the door. But she didn't. Minutes later, Mr. Joshua returned. He stood near the doorway, watching her. You're still here, he said quietly. Regina hesitated, looking down at her hands. I should go. He walked closer, stopping just a few steps away. But you haven't. The silence stretched between them, thick and unbreakable. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. This is wrong, she whispered. I know, he replied. But he didn't move. And neither did she. They stood there staring at each other. After that night, things changed. Their stolen glances became longer. Their casual conversations became deeper. The tension between them grew unbearable. Regina knew she was playing a dangerous game, but the thrill of it all was intoxicating. One afternoon, Rain was in the kitchen making a snack, leaving Regina and Mr. Joshua alone in the living room. He sat beside her, closer than usual. "You haunt my thoughts, Regina," he admitted, his voice low and strained. She swallowed hard. "You haunt mine too." For a moment, he just stared at her, the weight of their forbidden attraction hanging between them. Then, without thinking, he reached out, brushing through her face. Her skin burned where he touched her. Before either of them could say anything, Rain's voice rang from the kitchen, snapping them out of the trance. Regina shot up from the couch. "I should go." Mr. Joshua ran a hand over his face, exhaling slowly. "That would be best." But as she walked out the door, she knew neither of them had the strength to stop what was coming. Regina tried to avoid Rain's house the following week, but it was impossible. Rain was her best friend. There was no excuse not to visit. When she finally went over on Saturday, she told herself she would be careful. She wouldn't be alone with him. She would keep her distance. But fate had other plans. Rain got a call from her grandmother, asking her to pick up something from the market. "I'll be back soon," she called out as she rushed out the door, leaving Regina alone with Mr. Joshua. The house was too quiet. Regina stood, ready to leave, but Mr. Joshua spoke. "You don't have to run from me, Regina." She turned to face him. "Then what do you expect me to do?" He let out a heavy sigh. "I don't know." She knew she should leave, but instead, she took a hesitant step forward. "Why does it feel like I've known you forever?" Mr. Joshua inhaled sharply, his hands clenched into fists. "Because you remind me of her." Regina froze. "Who?" "My late girlfriend, Rain's mother." Her heart skipped a beat. "You loved her?" "Yes, I loved her more than anything before she went to heaven immediately after giving birth to Rain." Regina bit her lip, her emotions tangled. "And now?" His eyes darkened. "Now, I don't know what to do." The silence between them was heavy. Then, without warning, he reached for her hand. Regina's breath caught in her throat. Every rational part of her screamed for her to walk away. But she didn't. And that was their first mistake. He gave her a memorable kiss that lasted for a while before he pulled away. "Regina, I love you so much and I mean it. I want to discuss my feelings with your parents, but I don't know how they will feel about it," he said. After that moment, everything spiraled out of control. Regina and Mr. Joshua didn't cross the line completely, but their touches lingered too long. Their words carried too much meaning. The space between them grew smaller with each visit. Regina knew she was playing with fire, but she couldn't bring herself to care. Regina started lying. To her parents. To her best friend and to herself. She wasn't just visiting Rain anymore, she was seeing Mr. Joshua, alone. At first, it was harmless. They would talk for hours, share quiet glances, and steal fleeting touches when no one was watching. But the tension was suffocating. The more they tried to resist, the stronger it pulled them in. One rainy evening, Rain fell asleep early, leaving Regina and Mr. Joshua alone again. They sat in the dimly lit living room, their hands almost touching on the couch. Regina shivered slightly from the cold. Without thinking, Mr. Joshua reached out, rubbing warmth into her fingers. Her breath hitched. He met her gaze, and in that moment, all the barriers they had tried to build came crashing down. Slowly, hesitantly, he leaned in. And before she could stop herself, she met him halfway. Their lips touched, soft, hesitant, filled with all the unspoken emotions they had buried for weeks. But as soon as it happened, reality came crashing back. Mr. Joshua pulled away, his eyes filled with regret. "We can't do this." Regina's heart ached. "Then why did you kiss me?" He exhaled shakily. "Because I wanted to." Silence. Then he whispered, "But that doesn't make it right. I have to make things official with your parents first because I want you to be mine forever." And for the first time, Regina walked away wondering if she was about to lose herself completely. Regina lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling. She touched her lips, still feeling the warmth of Mr. Joshua's kiss. It was wrong, everything about this was wrong, but why did it feel so right? The next morning, she avoided Rain at school. Guilt clawed at her. She was betraying her best friend in the worst possible way, but she couldn't stop herself. After school, Regina found herself heading to Rain's house again, even though she told herself she wouldn't. The moment Mr. Joshua opened the door, their eyes locked. "Regina," he murmured. She stepped inside without thinking. "I know we said we shouldn't, but I can't stop thinking about you." Mr. Joshua sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Neither can I." Silence settled between them, heavy and suffocating. Then, before they could think, before they could talk themselves out of it, he pulled her close. And this time, neither of them stopped. Regina had never felt this alive before. She was sneaking around, lying to everyone she loved, but she didn't care. Whenever she was in Mr. Joshua's arms, the world outside didn't exist. But secrets never stayed hidden forever. One afternoon, Rain noticed something off. "Why do you always come over when my dad is home?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Regina forced a laugh. "What? That's not true." Rain studied her for a moment before shrugging. "Okay, I just thought it was weird." Regina's heart pounded. If Rain was starting to suspect something, how long before the truth came out? She needed to be more careful. One Saturday evening, Mr. Joshua called her. "Meet me outside," he said. Regina hesitated. "Where are we going?" "Away. Just for the weekend." Her heart raced. "Rain will wonder where I am." He sighed. I need to be with you, away from all this." Regina closed her eyes, knowing she should say no. But when he pulled up in his car, she climbed in without a second thought. The weekend was a dream, sunsets, whispered confessions, stolen kisses. But dreams always ended. And reality was waiting for them when they returned. Regina sneaked back home late Sunday night, expecting to slip into bed unnoticed. But as soon as she entered, her mother was waiting. "Where were you?" she demanded. Regina's stomach dropped. "At Rain's house." Her mother's eyes narrowed. "I called Rain's grandmother. She said you never showed up." Panic rose in her throat. I went out with some other friends." Her mother studied her. "We'll talk about this later." Regina rushed to her room, heart hammering. She had been careless. And she had a terrible feeling that this was just the beginning of the end. At school, Regina felt eyes on her. Was it her imagination, or were people talking? Has Rain told them something about her? And to make it even worse, Mr. Joshua was avoiding her after the weekend getaway. That evening, she left school without Rain to confront him. "Why are you pulling away from me?" He sighed. "Regina, whatever we're doing, it won't end well." Pain stabbed through her chest. "So what? You're just going to walk away?" He looked torn, but before he could answer, the door swung open. Rain stood there, eyes wide. Regina's heart stopped. Rain had seen them. And the look on her face said it all. Rain's hands trembled as she took a step back. "Tell me I didn't just see what I think I saw." Regina opened her mouth, but no words came out. Rain turned to her father, her voice breaking. "Dad." Mr. Joshua ran a hand over his face. "Rain, No," she whispered, shaking her head. "This can't be real." Tears filled Regina's eyes. "Rain, please." But Rain had already turned and ran out of the house. And in that moment, Regina knew. She had lost her best friend forever. Rain didn't come to school the next day. When Regina texted her, there was no reply. By the time Rain finally returned, she didn't even look at Regina. When Regina approached her at lunch, Rain stood up and walked away without a word. But later that afternoon, Rain finally spoke. "I trusted you," she hissed. "I told my dad everything about you. I defended you when people talked behind your back. And this? This is how you repay me." Regina's chest tightened. "Rain, I never meant." "I don't care what you meant," Rain cut her off, her voice shaking with anger. "Stay away from me. And stay away from my dad." She turned and walked away. And this time, Regina knew she wouldn't be coming back. She should have told Rain everything from the beginning. Or maybe she should just walk away. But she didn't. Instead, she found herself outside Mr. Joshua's house later that night. When he opened the door, she saw the pain in his eyes. "Rain hates me," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "And she hates me too." Regina exhaled shakily. "So what do we do?" He hesitated before pulling her inside. And just like that, despite everything they had lost, they kept going. Even though they both knew it was only a matter of time before it all collapsed. As Regina walked into their living room turning on the lights, she saw her parents sit. "We know everything," her mother said. Regina's blood turned to ice. Her father's voice was calm but firm. "You are prohibited from seeing that man henceforth." Panic shot through her. "You can't control me." Her mother's eyes burned with disappointment. "We thought we raised you better." Regina's heart pounded. "I love him." Her father's jaw clenched. "You don't know what love is." Tears streamed down her face. "You don't understand." "We understand enough," her mother snapped. "And if you don't stop this, you will regret it." Regina stormed to her room, slamming the door behind her. But deep down, she knew her parents were right. Because even love had consequences. And she was about to face them all. The next morning, Mr. Joshua sat in his car outside Regina's house, his fingers gripping the steering wheel. He had rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in his head. He loved Regina, he was sure of it. She wasn't just some teenage infatuation. She was different. She made him feel alive again. But he also knew how it looked. A 34-year-old man coming to ask for the hand of an 18-year-old girl? Society would never understand. Still, he couldn't walk away. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the car and walked toward the massive iron gate. A security guard informed Regina's parents before letting him in. When the maid led him to the sitting room, Regina's parents were already waiting. Their faces were unreadable. "Good evening, sir, ma'am," he greeted politely. Regina's father nodded stiffly. "Mr. Joshua, we've been expecting you." His stomach twisted. "You have?" Regina's mother leaned forward, her eyes cold. "Yes. Our daughter's best friend, Rain, already told us everything." A chill ran down his spine. Regina's father's voice was sharp. "So, let's get this straight, are you here to explain yourself, or are you here to disgrace yourself further?" Mr. Joshua swallowed hard. He hadn't expected this. He had hoped to approach this as a mature man in love, not as someone on trial. "I won't deny anything," he said, his voice steady. "I love Regina. And I want to do right by her." Regina's mother scoffed. "Do right by her? By dating your daughter's best friend? A girl who just turned 18. "I understand how this looks," he admitted. "But my feelings for her are real. I want to make it official, to assure you that my intentions are pure." Regina's father's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're 34, Mr. Joshua. She is barely an adult. You were an adult before she was even born." Mr. Joshua clenched his fists. "Age doesn't define love." "But it defines responsibility," Regina's mother snapped. "And you are being irresponsible." "I would never hurt her," he insisted. Regina's father leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Tell me something, Joshua. If a man your age came after your own daughter at 18, how would you feel?" Silence. Mr. Joshua opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because for the first time, he saw it from their eyes. And he had no answer. Regina stormed into the sitting room, her heart pounding. She had overheard everything from the corridor. "Stop treating me like a child," she burst out. Her mother's head snapped toward her. "You are a child." Regina shook her head. "I'm 18. I know what I want." Her father's voice was calm but firm. "And what you want is a grown man who should know better." Tears burned her eyes. "Why can't you see that I love him?" Regina's mother stood up, shaking with fury. "Love? You think this is love? You have no idea what love is, Regina." She turned to Mr. Joshua. "And you should be ashamed of yourself." Regina grabbed his arm. "He's not a predator. He didn't force me into anything. I chose this." Her father's expression darkened. "Then choose your family, Regina. Because if you continue this, you are no longer welcome in this house." Regina's breath caught in her throat. "What?" Her mother's voice was final. "End it. Or pack your bags." The room fell silent. And Regina realized she was being forced to choose. between the only family she had ever known, and the man she wasn't sure she could live without. Regina stood frozen, her father's words echoing in her mind. End it. Or pack your bags. Tears blurred her vision as she looked at her mother's stern face, then at Mr. Joshua, who sat stiffly, his jaw clenched. She had never imagined things would escalate this way. Mr. Joshua reached for her hand gently but spoke to her parents. I understand your fears, and I won't stand here and argue with you. But I will not let Regina lose everything because of me. He turned to her, his eyes filled with something deeper than just love. It was concern, understanding, and an unspoken plea. Regina, I don't want you to throw away your relationship with your parents over this. Your future is important. Regina swallowed hard, her heart twisting. So, what are you saying? He sighed. Focus on your studies. Your final exams are around the corner. Let's not make rash decisions right now. Her father scoffed. Now, you're acting like an adult. Mr. Joshua ignored the jab. I won't pressure you, Regina. I just want you to succeed first. Regina felt her parents' eyes on her, waiting for her response. She didn't want to choose between them and Joshua. But she also knew that without passing her exams, she had no real freedom. With a deep breath, she nodded. I'll focus on my exams. Her mother exhaled sharply, relieved. Good. Her father's gaze softened just a little. She wasn't sure what the right choice was anymore. Regina tried to bury herself in schoolwork, but the weight of everything made it difficult to concentrate. Rain had been distant, barely speaking to her since the confrontation. Their friendship, once unbreakable, now felt like fragile glass. One wrong step, and it would shatter completely. One evening, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Joshua. Can you come over this weekend? We need to talk. Her heart raced. She knew she shouldn't, but she needed to see him. That Saturday, she found herself standing in front of his house again. This time, there was no rush of excitement, only a nervous flutter in her stomach. When he opened the door, he smiled softly. Come in. As she stepped inside, she was surprised to see Rain sitting on the couch, her arms crossed tightly. Regina's stomach dropped. Was this a trap? Mr. Joshua gestured for her to sit. I asked you both here because I can't stand to see you two like this. Rain's lips tightened. What's there to talk about? Mr. Joshua sighed and looked at Rain with a deep emotion in his eyes. She reminds me of your mother. Rain blinked, caught off guard. What? When I look at Regina, I see her. The way she smiles, the way she talks. Regina is like her in every way. But I lost her. He exhaled, his voice thick with emotion. I have never been with any woman since I lost your mother, but when I met Regina, something in me woke up again. It wasn't just about love, it was about remembering the kind of love your mother and I had. Rain's face softened, confusion flickering in her eyes. So, you don't love Regina because she is Regina? No, Mr. Joshua said firmly. I love Regina for who she is. But being with her made me realize how much I've been holding on to the past. And I don't want to lose either of you. Regina swallowed hard, watching Rain's expression shift from anger to something uncertain. Finally, Rain sighed and looked at Regina. I don't know how to feel about this, but I miss my best friend. Regina felt her throat tighten. I miss you too. Slowly, Rain extended her hand. Regina hesitated only for a moment before taking it. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was a start. And with exams approaching, it was the peace they all needed. With the tension easing between them, Regina, Rain, and Mr. Joshua all agreed to focus on the most pressing matter, their final exams. Mr. Joshua had always been a disciplined man, and now more than ever, he wanted Regina to stay on track. He knew that if she let emotions consume her, it could ruin her chances at success. So he made it his responsibility to guide her. One evening, he sat her down in his home office. Regina, listen to me, he said gently but firmly. I know you care about me, and I care about you. But you can't let emotions cloud your judgment right now. Your final exams are a big deal. They will determine your future. Promise me that no matter what happens between us, you won't let your studies suffer. Regina nodded. I promise. But promises were easier said than done. She found it difficult to focus at school. Whispers followed her everywhere, about her falling out with Rain, about the rumors surrounding her and Mr. Joshua. Some people suspected, some didn't, but either way, she felt the weight of everyone's eyes on her. Rain, to her credit, tried her best to act normal around Regina, though their friendship still wasn't what it used to be. But the more Regina focused on her studies, the more she realized she needed Rain's support. One afternoon, Regina found her best friend sitting alone in the school library. She took a deep breath and approached her. "Hey," she said softly. Rain glanced up, then sighed. "Hey." Regina sat beside her, opening her textbook. "I know things have been weird, but do you think we can at least study together? Like before?" Rain hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Yeah, like before." And just like that, the air between them lightened. For the first time in weeks, Regina felt a sense of peace. As the weeks went by, Regina dedicated herself to studying. Mr. Joshua helped by setting up structured study schedules for her. He even offered to tutor her in subjects she struggled with. "You're lucky I'm good at mathematics," he teased one evening as they sat across from each other at his dining table. "Back in the day, I was top of my class." Regina smirked. "Oh, so you're saying you were a nerd?" He chuckled. "Let's just say I was focused. And I want you to be, too." Rain joined them sometimes, though she still avoided discussing anything about Mr. Joshua's relationship with Regina. Regina understood, it was a complicated situation. One day, as they were studying, Rain suddenly said, "Regina, do you think this is really love?" Regina froze, not expecting the question. "What do you mean?" Rain closed her textbook and leaned back. "I mean, love should make you feel secure, right? It shouldn't come with so much struggle." Regina bit her lip. "Love isn't always easy." Rain sighed. "I just don't want you to get hurt." Regina nodded slowly. "I know." Despite everything, they continued preparing for exams together, burying themselves in books and late-night revisions. Regina knew that no matter what happened with Mr. Joshua, her future depended on these exams. And she refused to let anything stand in her way. The final exams were just a week away, and the entire school was buzzing with tension. Students carried textbooks everywhere, muttering formulas and historical dates under their breath. Teachers held extra classes, cramming last-minute revisions into tired minds. For Regina, the pressure felt heavier than ever. It wasn't just about passing. She needed to prove to herself, to her parents, and even to Mr. Joshua that she was capable of securing her future. One evening, as she sat in Mr. Joshua's house studying, she sighed heavily, rubbing her temples. "I feel like my brain is shutting down." Mr. Joshua chuckled from across the table, where he was reviewing her practice answers. "That's because you're overloading it. Take a break." She shook her head stubbornly. "I can't afford to fail." He closed the book in front of her gently. "Regina, listen to me. You are smart. You've prepared well. But if you exhaust yourself, you'll struggle throughout the exams. Rest is just as important as studying." She exhaled, knowing he was right. "It's just, my parents already think I'm unserious. If I fail, they'll never take me seriously again." Mr. Joshua's expression softened. "They're your parents. They love you, even if they don't always show it the way you want. And no exam defines your worth." His words settled in her chest, calming some of her anxiety. "Thank you," she murmured. He smiled. "Now, eat something. You need energy to take over the world." She laughed softly, feeling a little lighter. The first exam day arrived, and the entire school felt like a battlefield. Regina sat in the exam hall, gripping her pen tightly. The first paper was mathematics, her weakest subject. She took a deep breath as the invigilator handed out the papers. "You can do this," she told herself. When she flipped the question paper open, her heart pounded. The questions looked tougher than she had expected. For a split second, panic set in. But then, she remembered Mr. Joshua's voice. "Breathe. Take your time. You've got this." She put it together, reread the questions, and began to write. The first paper ended, then the second, then the third. Day after day, the exams continued, each one draining her more than the last. One afternoon, she and Rain sat together under a tree after a particularly tough physics exam. Rain groaned, stretching her arms. "If I fail this paper, I'm blaming Mr. Joshua. He told us the wrong formula for question 5. Regina laughed for the first time in days. Maybe he was testing us. Rain shook her head with a small smile. Honestly, though, I'm glad we're doing this together. I don't know how I would have survived this exam period alone. Regina smiled. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, their friendship slowly healing. Regina still didn't know what the future held for her and Mr. Joshua, but for now, she was focused on one thing: finishing these exams and taking back control of her life. The last exam paper was English, and as soon as the invigilator announced, "Time's up, pens down," the entire hall erupted in relief. Some students stretched, some sighed, and a few even clapped softly to celebrate the end of the exams. Regina closed her answer booklet, feeling an overwhelming wave of emotions. It was finally over. Months of studying, sleepless nights, and anxiety had all led to this moment. As she walked out of the hall, she saw Rain waiting for her. "How was it?" Rain asked, linking arms with her. Regina let out a deep breath. "It was okay. Not perfect, but okay." Rain grinned. "Good. Now, can we please breathe? Because I feel like I've been holding my breath for weeks." They laughed and headed toward the school gate, where groups of students celebrated in different ways, some taking pictures, others screaming with joy, and some even making plans for post-exam parties. Mr. Joshua had promised to pick them up to celebrate their hard work. As they approached his car, Regina felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. Despite all the drama, he had been there for her through it all. "Congratulations, girls," Mr. Joshua said as they got in. "I'm proud of you both." Rain smiled. "You should be. Your tutoring helped." Regina met his gaze in the rearview mirror and smiled. "Thank you, for everything." He nodded but didn't say anything. Regina could sense that something was on his mind. A week after the exams, Regina stayed home, trying to relax. But her mind kept drifting to one thing: her future. She had always dreamed of going to university, but now, there was another factor to consider: Mr. Joshua. Their relationship had been complicated from the start, and now that she was done with school, she had to decide what came next. One evening, Mr. Joshua invited her over. When she arrived, he was sitting in the living room, looking deep in thought. "I need to talk to you," he said as she sat beside him. Regina's heart raced. "What is it?" He sighed. "Regina, I love you. But I don't want to be the reason you lose sight of your future. You're young. You have dreams, and I want you to chase them without any distractions." She felt a lump in her throat. "Are you breaking up with me?" He took her hand gently. "No. But I want you to go to university, live your life, and make decisions for yourself. If after all that, you still choose me, then I will wait." Tears welled in her eyes. "You're asking me to leave?" "I'm asking you to grow," he corrected softly. Regina's heart ached, but deep down, she knew he was right. She had spent so much time wrapped up in emotions that she hadn't fully considered what she truly wanted for herself. She wiped her eyes and nodded. "Okay. I'll go." He kissed her forehead. "That's my girl." As she left his house that evening, Regina knew one thing for sure: this was not the end. It was just the beginning. The weeks that followed were filled with mixed emotions for Regina. On one hand, she was excited about the prospect of university and the independence it would bring. On the other hand, she felt an ache in her chest whenever she thought about Mr. Joshua's words. True love should not hold her back, it should push her forward. And he was giving her the space to grow. Her parents, surprisingly, were more involved than ever. Now that school was over, they were suddenly interested in her next steps. Her mother sat with her one evening, scrolling through different universities on her laptop. "We need to be strategic about your choices," she said. "There's a school in the UK that—" "I want to study here in Nigeria," Regina interrupted. Her mother raised a brow. "Why?" Regina hesitated. She wanted to stay close to Mr. Joshua, but she also knew she had to make this decision for herself. "I just think I'll do better here. I will be more comfortable schooling with Rain." Her mother sighed but didn't push. "Fine. We'll start your applications." The day Regina moved to campus was emotional. Rain, who had also gained admission to the same university, helped her settle in. Wow, so we're really doing this, she said, flopping onto Regina's bed. Regina smiled. Yeah. A new chapter. A part of her wanted to see Mr. Joshua before leaving, but she decided against it. If she saw him, she might change her mind. But he didn't make it easy. That evening, just as she was unpacking, she got a message from him, "Come outside." Her heart raced as she stepped out of her hostel. He was leaning against his car, looking as effortlessly handsome as ever. "I couldn't let you leave without saying goodbye properly," he said. Regina swallowed hard. "I didn't think you would come." He smiled. "I'll always be here for you, Regina. No matter where life takes us." She hugged him tightly, breathing in his familiar scent. "I'll miss you." He pulled back, looking into her eyes. "Focus on your studies. Become the woman you're meant to be. And if we're meant to be, we'll find our way back to each other." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she nodded. "Okay." As he drove away, Regina knew this wasn't the end. It was just a pause. She had a life to build. And if fate allowed, love would find its way back to her. Regina's first few weeks in university were filled with new experiences. The freedom was sweet, but it also came with its challenges. Lectures were intense, assignments piled up quickly, and navigating a campus full of strangers felt overwhelming at times. But through it all, she had Rain. "University is different," Rain said one evening as they sat in their shared hostel room. "Nobody cares who you were in secondary school. It's like starting all over again." Regina nodded. "It's refreshing, but also scary. Back in secondary school, I was known. Here, I feel invisible." "That's a good thing," Rain said with a smirk. "Now we get to define ourselves however we want." Regina liked the sound of that. Maybe this was her chance to grow, to truly find out who she was beyond just being the brilliant girl who once fell in love with her best friend's father. As the months passed, Regina settled into university life. She focused on her studies, joined a book club, and even made a few new friends. But despite her efforts, she couldn't completely push Mr. Joshua out of her mind. One evening, while walking back to her hostel, she bumped into a young man carrying a pile of books. "Whoa!" he exclaimed as they both stumbled. The books tumbled to the ground. "I'm so sorry," Regina said, quickly bending to help him pick them up. "No worries," he said with a warm smile. "I should have been watching where I was going." Regina handed him one of the books and caught his name on the cover page. "Daniel, are you a writer?" He chuckled. "Trying to be. I'm working on my first novel." She raised a brow, intrigued. "That's impressive." He extended a hand. "I'm Daniel, final year student. And you are?" "Regina, second year." "Nice to meet you, Regina," he said, his smile lingering. As she walked away, she found herself smiling too. Maybe university was about more than just studying. Maybe it was about meeting people who could change your life in unexpected ways. Days turned into weeks, and Regina found herself spending more time with Daniel. He was different, kind, thoughtful, and incredibly smart. He had a way of making deep conversations feel effortless, and for the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. "You think too much," Daniel teased one evening as they sat in the school library. Regina smiled. "Maybe. But thinking keeps me from making mistakes." He leaned back in his chair. "Or maybe it stops you from taking chances." She thought about that. Maybe he was right. She had been so careful, so afraid to make the wrong move, especially after everything with Mr. Joshua. But was she ready to take another chance? One Saturday afternoon, Regina was walking to the cafeteria when her phone buzzed. It was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello, Regina, it's me." Her heart stopped. It was Mr. Joshua. She swallowed hard. "Mr. Joshua?" He chuckled softly. "So formal. Just Joshua." She didn't know what to say. It had been months since they last spoke, and she had been trying so hard to move forward. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm good," she said carefully. "School has been busy." "I'm glad to hear that." There was a pause. "I didn't want to disturb you. He hesitated. "I wanted to check on you." Regina's chest tightened. She had waited for this call, dreamed about hearing his voice again. But now that it was happening, she didn't know how to feel. "I appreciate that," she said softly. Another pause. "Then, I won't keep you. Just, take care, Regina." She nodded even though he couldn't see her. "You too." As she ended the call, she felt a mix of emotions, happiness, longing, and a quiet sadness. Was she really ready to leave him in the past? A week later, Regina was sitting in the park on campus when Daniel joined her. "You seem lost in thought," he said. She sighed. "Just thinking about life." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Regina, I love you." Her heart skipped a beat. "What?" He chuckled nervously. "I've liked you since the day we met. And I know you have things you're dealing with, but I just wanted you to know." Regina stared at him, unsure of how to respond. Daniel was amazing. He made her laugh, challenged her to be better, and genuinely cared for her. But was she ready to open her heart again? Regina felt her heart race at Daniel's confession. He was looking at her with such honesty, such openness, that she almost envied how easy it was for him to express his feelings. I don't know what to say," she admitted, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Daniel smiled, though she could see a hint of nervousness in his eyes. "You don't have to say anything now. I just wanted to be honest with you." She nodded, grateful for his patience. But deep inside, a storm was brewing. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying Daniel's words. He was sweet, kind, and available, everything that should make sense for her. And yet, one phone call from Mr. Joshua had sent her emotions spiraling all over again. Was she still in love with him? Or was she just clinging to the past? Regina tried to focus on school, but Daniel's confession and Mr. Joshua's unexpected call made it impossible. Regina thought about Daniel's words all weekend. She knew she had to confront her feelings, but she wasn't sure how. Then, on Monday evening, she got another call from Mr. Joshua. "Can I see you?" he asked. Her heart pounded. "Now?" "Yes. I'm outside your hostel." Regina's breath caught. He was here. She rushed outside, her emotions in a frenzy. And there he was, leaning against his car, looking as effortlessly handsome as ever. "You came," she whispered. He smiled. "I had to. I can't keep pretending that I don't miss you, Regina." Her heart clenched. "Joshua." "I know you have a whole life ahead of you," he said, stepping closer. "I know I should let you go. But I can't. I love you." Tears welled in her eyes. She had waited so long to hear those words again. But now that they were here, what was she supposed to do? She had to make a choice. But was she ready? Regina stood frozen, her heart pounding so loudly that it drowned out the noise of the world around her. Mr. Joshua's words echoed in her mind, "I love you." It was everything she had longed to hear. But why did it feel so heavy? "Joshua," she whispered, searching his face for answers she wasn't sure she wanted. "What happens now?" He sighed, stepping closer. "I don't know, Regina. I just know that staying away from you hasn't changed how I feel." Her throat tightened. "But I'm in university now. My life is just beginning. And I don't want to be the reason you hold back," he said, his voice gentle. "But I also don't want to pretend that you don't mean everything to me." Regina's hands trembled as she reached for his. "You mean everything to me too, but," she hesitated. "Loving you comes with consequences. Rain, my parents, society, do you know how much we'll have to fight?" Mr. Joshua held her gaze, pain flickering in his eyes. "I know. And if it's too much, I'll walk away." Her heart ached at the thought. But was she ready to fight for this love? Regina avoided Rain for days, too afraid of what she might say. But fate had other plans. One evening, as she entered her hostel, she found Rain waiting by the entrance. "Hey," Rain said softly. Regina's stomach twisted. "Hey." Rain crossed her arms. "So, my dad came to see you?" Regina felt her breath hitch. "Rain, I already knew he would," Rain interrupted. "I know how he feels about you." Regina's mouth went dry. "And how do you feel?" Rain sighed, staring at the ground. At first, I hated it. I hated you. She looked up, her eyes softer than before. But then I realized. My dad has been lonely for years. And I've never seen him this happy before. Regina's lips parted in shock. You're okay with this? Rain exhaled. I won't lie, it's weird as hell. But I love you, Regina. You're my best friend. If you make him happy, and he makes you happy, then who am I to stand in the way? Tears stung Regina's eyes. Rain. Her best friend pulled her into a tight hug. Just don't break my dad's heart. Regina let out a small, shaky laugh. I should be more worried about him breaking mine. Rain smirked. Then I'll have to beat him up. For the first time in a long while, Regina felt a weight lift off her chest. Maybe this love wasn't so impossible after all. With Rain's support, Regina felt more confident in her feelings. But there was still one person she had to face, Daniel. She found him at the campus park, reading a book under a tree. When he saw her, he smiled, but there was something sad in his eyes. I was waiting for you, he said quietly. Regina took a deep breath and sat beside him. Daniel, you're an amazing person. You've made my university experience beautiful. But, she paused, my heart belongs to someone else. I'm sorry. Daniel smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Don't be. Love isn't something you force. I just hope he knows how lucky he is. She reached for his hand. You'll find someone who loves you the way you deserve. He squeezed her fingers before letting go. I hope so too. As Regina walked away, she felt both relief and sorrow. She had made her choice. Now, she had to see it through. With Daniel behind her and Rain's support, Regina felt lighter. Mr. Joshua, ever the gentleman, insisted on making things official. If we're going to do this, Regina, I want to do it right, he had told her. Your parents deserve to hear it from me, not from rumors again. Regina had never been more nervous in her life. She knew how strict her father was, how obsessed her mother was with their family's reputation. But Mr. Joshua's sincerity reassured her. On a Sunday afternoon, he dressed in a crisp white shirt and navy blue trousers, his presence commanding yet humble. He arrived at Regina's family house, holding nothing but his dignity and love. Her parents sat in the living room, watching him with sharp, evaluating eyes. Regina clenched her fists as her father leaned back and asked, So, Mr. Joshua, what brings you to my house? Mr. Joshua didn't hesitate. Sir, I'm here to tell you that I love your daughter, and I want to build a future with her. The silence was suffocating. Then, her mother scoffed. You must be joking. Her father's expression darkened. Are you out of your mind? You're old enough to be her father. Regina's heart pounded, but Mr. Joshua remained calm. I understand your concerns, sir, and I won't pretend that this is conventional. But I assure you, my feelings for Regina are genuine. Her mother shook her head. What will people say? Our only daughter, dating a man with a grown child? A man who impregnated someone at a young age. Regina finally found her voice. Mom, Dad, I love him. He treats me with respect, with care. Isn't that what you want for me? Her father stood up. You are a child, Regina. You don't know what you're saying. Regina straightened. I'm not a child, Dad. I'm 19, almost 20, and in my 200 level. An adult. And this is my decision. Her parents stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. For weeks, her parents refused to speak to her. They threatened to cut her off, called her naive, and even tried to send her abroad to separate them. But Regina stood her ground. Mr. Joshua, despite the chaos, never wavered. He supported her studies, respected her space, and never pressured her to choose him over her family. Her mother, on the other hand, softened over time. She saw how serious Mr. Joshua was, how much Regina's happiness revolved around him. Maybe we should stop fighting her, she whispered to her husband one night. But it wasn't until Regina fell ill from stress and exhaustion that her father realized how deeply this love had affected her. Sitting by her bedside, he sighed. You really love him, don't you? Regina, weak but determined, nodded. Yes, Dad. With all my heart. He was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he sighed. I don't like this. But I won't lose my daughter over it. It wasn't full approval, but it was enough. And with time, Regina's parents learned to tolerate her decision. With her parents' reluctant blessing, Regina and Mr. Joshua finally had the freedom to love each other openly. Though it took time for her father to fully accept their relationship, her mother slowly warmed up to the idea. Regina and Mr. Joshua officially started dating, and for the first time, their love was not hidden behind fear or secrecy. They enjoyed simple moments, dinner dates, late-night study sessions, and walks in the park where they talked about everything and nothing. Rain, once unsure about their relationship, became their biggest supporter. She teased them endlessly but also reminded Regina to stay focused on her studies. If you fail, Dad won't let you hear the end of it, she would joke, making them all laugh. Through it all, Mr. Joshua remained her biggest cheerleader. He respected her space, encouraged her dreams, and even helped with her studies. Regina, in return, found herself falling deeper in love with him every single day. By Regina's final year, their love had grown even stronger. She was no longer the unsure girl who fell in love at first sight. She was now a woman who had built a relationship based on trust, respect, and devotion. On the night of her final exams, Mr. Joshua took her to a quiet rooftop restaurant, one of her favorite places. The city lights sparkled below them as he held her hand, his eyes filled with emotion. I've watched you grow into this incredible woman, he said softly. And I want to spend the rest of my life watching you achieve your dreams. Regina, will you marry me? Tears welled up in her eyes as she gasped, nodding before she could even speak. Yes. 1,000 times, yes. The entire restaurant erupted in cheers as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It was the beginning of forever. Their wedding was nothing short of magical. It was a beautiful, intimate ceremony attended by family, friends, and well-wishers. Rain stood beside her as her maid of honor, beaming with happiness. Regina's father proudly walked her down the aisle, whispering, "Be happy, my daughter." Her mother wiped tears throughout the ceremony, finally realizing that Regina had truly found love. When Mr. Joshua lifted her veil and kissed her, the world melted away. They had defied the odds, fought through the storms, and now they were officially husband and wife. Their love had won. Mr. Joshua spared no expense in making their honeymoon unforgettable. He flew them out of the country to a breathtaking island resort. For 2 weeks, they explored, laughed, and created memories that would last a lifetime. They strolled on white sandy beaches, had candlelit dinners by the ocean, and danced under the stars. Regina had never felt so free, so loved. Every moment with Mr. Joshua was a dream she never wanted to wake up from. Returning home, Regina had one more milestone to conquer, her convocation. Dressed in a stunning graduation gown, she walked proudly onto the stage to receive her degree. Tears filled her eyes as she spotted her husband in the crowd, standing tall, his pride unmistakable. Her parents, too, were there, their faces glowing with admiration. When she walked down from the stage, Mr. Joshua pulled her into a tight embrace. "I knew you would do it," he whispered. And she had. She had it all, love, success, and a future brighter than she had ever imagined. With school behind her, Regina stepped into a new role, not just as a wife, but as a partner in Mr. Joshua's business. She had always been ambitious, and Mr. Joshua believed in her talents. Together, they expanded his company, making it one of the most successful enterprises in the country. Their marriage succeeded not just on love, but on mutual respect and teamwork. They traveled, built new ventures, and supported each other's dreams. Rain often teased, "You two are the power couple of the century." And she wasn't wrong. Years passed, and their love only grew stronger. They celebrated anniversaries, overcame challenges, and built a home filled with love, laughter, and joy. Regina had found everything she ever wanted, not just a husband, but a best friend, a mentor, and a father in every sense of the word. As she sat by the balcony one evening, watching the sunset, Mr. Joshua wrapped his arms around her. "Do you regret anything?" he asked softly. She smiled, leaning into him. "Not a single thing." Because love had found them in the most unexpected way. And against all odds, it had endured. This is the end. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more.